Yo ando regando por todos lados. Tampoco no.
Sí, sí es lo que comenta. Oye, y aquí ya no hubo falta de ponerles la diadema, lo que decíamos con los... O sea, hablan al aire, ¿y dónde está el micrófono ahí? No lo veo.
¿Aquí?
Ahí está.
No, el micrófono.
¿Al micrófono
del
cuál?
monitor.
Del monitor, no lo
¿Dónde
sé.
está? No, están hablando directo al monitor, ¿no? O sea, la voz no está saliendo por aquí.
Sí, por aquí.
Con los dos.
Ujú.
Con las dos.
Con las
O
dos.
sea, estamos mandando aquí para el.
Sí, para el streaming.
Y así
Sí.
para el Webex.
Para el Webex.
Exactamente.
¿Por dónde,
En la
¿dónde está
pantalla.
el micrófono?
¿Dónde está el micrófono?
Pues por ahí está.
¿Dónde? ¿Dónde está?
Porque está en
No
el
lo veo.
programa.
Yo no lo veo.
Va a estar por atrás, enfrente de la.
No se ve.
Va a estar de esta parrillita de abajo.
Sí.
Porque es lo curioso, ¿no?
Ahí,
Sí.
por ahí está mejor.
En alguno de estos lados.
Sí.
No era un lío. No,
Sí.
está muy bien, ¿no?
Ok, ya son 1 para las
Mira
4.
aquí nuestra sargento, está muy bien. Está bien, sí, porque si no, no salimos nunca, ¿verdad?
O pregúntale a Irene, dile, ¿quieres que yo comente algo? Tú directamente lo comes. ¿No? Y luego pregúntale a Irene, dime, ¿no?
Sí.
¿Dónde está el dinero?
Okay, please, Mr. Reinaldo Nava. So before, I just want to make a comment. During the previous presentation, there was a problem with the microphone of one of the partners that for some reason was on, like on and off. So please check your microphone to avoid this kind of accident, because sometimes it is not your fault. You don't do it intentionally, but we have to be aware to have the microphones off during the presentation, except for the microphone of the speaker. So let us get started. And this topic is whose objective is to determine the impacts of the implementation of international ethics code in the profession of public accountancy. So we have 2 experts that will talk about this. Just give me a sec. Well, I'm here. Well, thank you. If you could give us an overview of the next topic. Yes, of course. It's influence of ethics code in the professional activity. Well, like in the previous talks, ethics has become relevant in the work we perform as auditors. So there are essential aspects that we have to comply with. So we will be certain that our job is complying with the highest quality standards and excellence. And for this, we have a speaker that will present with Maria Gabriela Salina of our of Colombia, and I'm sure that she will present brilliantly. Okay, the resume, please, of Maria Gabriela Salina. Well, she is Maria Gabriela Salina Rodriguez from Colombia. She is a public accountant with wide experience in external and internal audit, with knowledge of international audit standards, operational and financial assessment in the compliance of goals and objectives. She has a great capacity of analysis, working capacity in high responsibility. So she will present, and along with Lady Marcela Riaño Gonzalez, also from Colombia. She is a public accountant and she has broad experience in these audit topics. With no further ado, I would like to give them the floor. So, well, good afternoon. Welcome. The floor is yours. Uh, Marcela, yes, good afternoon. So let's get us started. I will share my presentation. Can you see my screen? Yes, yes, we do. So I'm gonna talk about the influence of ethics code and professional activities. So I will be presenting with Lady Marcela Riaño that he will also be covering this topic. Ethic codes are a set of standards or parameters that establish the commitment of individuals of a specific social group. Society has put the trust in the behavior of professional accountants under the commitment of enforcing the principles of ethics code of their profession in favor of public interest and of a high quality work. IFAC, which is the International Federation of Accountants, is an organization that globally represents professional accountants and proposes to standardize the ethic code and international behavior to guide the quality of the profession exercise. Uh, this is the ethic code of public accountant in law 43 of 1990. In the internationalization of accounting that takes into account the standards of ethic codes and international behavior of IFAC, since it's a global legislation for financial information disclosure. There are cases of multi-ethical behavior that have deteriorated the credibility of accountants before the civil society. It was necessary to establish more rigid control measures and efficient measures to mitigate or resolve the fraudulent cases that would damage the exercise of accountancy. The This is based on the discipline, but benefiting the society in general and the ones that require accounting information, specifically based in the audit reports based on accounting principles. Even they guide the integrity of behavior, allowing in this way progress of a continuous activity in Colombia. They are making huge space in transferring borders in all aspects. The standards that regulate the practice of accountants in Colombia, it is in a process of internationalization. That is why it is essential to implement some aspects of this legal field that could be not adjusted to the new requirements. This is the case of a professional ethics codes ruled by Law 43 of 1990 that should be assessed, deeply assessed, in order to change those standards that do not fulfill the new needs. In a country like ours, demands changes of paradigms that are obsolete and in the mindset of accountants and users of financial information. Those are transformations that are necessary in the culture, the mindset, behavior, in terms of the standards, so they can be adapted and implemented in a successful manner. So, to give you some context about moral ethics, the code responsibility of accountant, the professional ethics, is a science that ba- that base the human behavior to adapt for the good of the universe. The professional ethics involves the ethical behaviors in the exercise of the profession. If a professional acts with a dual interest, forgetting the valuable behavior of his or her profession, so this would generate or cause problems in society, in the profession, or even in their own lives. So all the roles and criteria have been rolled out as a professional before the numerous situations that can happen in the daily work and put or they are tested in their daily activity. So these moral or principles in Colombia are mentioned in chapter 4, title 1 of Law 43 of 1990. When we talk about morale, it's the form of consciousness. It's the one that is reflected and are fixed in the ethical qualities of the social reality. It is a set of rules of coexistence norms that determine the obligation of men and women, their relations between each other and with the society. When we refer to code of ethics, we can say that it's a systematic organizations from which the are the moral responsibility that come from the social role of the professional and are the expectations of the people that have the right to demand thereof. IFAC establishes that the Code of Ethics have this is those are the essential principles in the professional practice because of all the situations that may arise in the accounting activity. When we talk about public faith, it's an it is the faith of the public. It is an undetermined number and heterogeneous of people. The responsibility of the public. This is an attestation or the signature of the public accountant in actions that of his or her profession. Is the faculty vested on public accountants that prove the veracity of accounting information that is provided to the users of financial information. The responsibility of public accountant, it is not is it's moral, ethical, material, civil, and penal. So the professional is called to act always from the moral and excel for its integrity in all the aspects that surround him or her, and to proceed. And his behavior is linked to the good faith. Let's talk about the Law 43 of 1990. We, we have to take into account that the profession purpose is to satisfy the needs of information of the organization of different agents of society, and this is done through quantifying the socioeconomical facts in order to produce information to control, plan, and optimize the management. The public accountant gives face when a document is subscribed expressing the opinion of certain economic facts, past, present, or future. The knowledge of the enforcement of what has been mentioned in the Code of Ethics is very important in the performance. Law 43 has a set of standards, permanent standards on ethics that public accountants should abide by in the exercise of the activities in public accountancy. This law 43 seeks, among other things, to set the guidelines for the performance of the professional activity, regulates the legal regime and disciplinary regime that public accountants are exposed to in the exercise of their profession. The main idea of this law is that each action performed by an accountant maintain objective and independent position. This is when we compare the Code of Ethics in Colombia and the Code of Ethics of IFAC, we can see that Law 43 obviously has more principles than IFAC. The public accountant should analyze the user of their services as an economic entity, independent, observing all the cases like integrity, objectivity, independence, responsibility, confidentiality, respect, obedience to legal provisions and regulatory provisions, competence and professional updating, dissemination, and respect amongst colleagues. And these are the basic principles of professional ethics that apply to public accountants. In this case, the law of integrity, that is principle that refers to the good action of the good behavior of a professional, as expecting that the accountant will be honest, respectful, objective. Objectivity refers to impartiality and the free of prejudice behavior, emphasizing in the issuance of certificates and the reports of a financial statement. When we talk about competence, is when the public account acts and performs the two previous principles in such a way that its way of acting cannot be not be influenced by other situation that will make the accountant to violate those principles. Confidentiality is among the principles of ethics. It is necessary the role of sanction as a consequence of irresponsibility to give guarantee to the users of the service. Confidentiality, since the information used by the accountant could be sensitive, and a high degree of professionalism is required, and also in the management of it, in order not to disseminate without authorization of the client the information submitted. Okay, observation of the provisions, legal provision. The accountant should act or must act and abide by the recommendations of his or her client, as long as it not is against the provision, and also according to the state regulations. Competence and professional action. The accountant should be a person that will be updated in terms of his or her profession in such a way that it will be developed as a competent professional, and in the same way will only accept the task for which he has the knowledge to provide a good service. Dissemination and collaboration. When no, this should be done under the principles that contained in Law 43, respect amongst colleagues. This refers to the good practices between public accountants, fostering a healthy and cordial environment. Uh, these principles rule accountants without considering the knowledge, the role, and as a way of conclusion, this also applies for fiscal reviewers and auditors, etc. So this is a comparison between the Colombian Code of Ethics and the Code of Ethics of IFAC. The structure, Law 43, refers to public accountants in general, and IFAC, on the other hand, divides in some segments. It is the general enforcement of the code, the professional accountants in the practice, and the professional accountants in the business. When we talk about the conceptual framework, Law 43 does not have this framework, but IFAC provides a conceptual framework as a guide of the fundamental ethical principles in order to identify threats in the compliance of the basic principles and apply the corresponding controls to counteract them. In terms of fees, the Code of Ethics establishes that the public accountant has the right to fix the fees according to his or her skills, knowledge, and experience, while IFAC determining that a public accountant can negotiate the fees as required. The fact that a professional accountant in the practice uh, quote his or her fees but of value less to that of other colleagues, it is not considered an anti-ethical behavior. The local code of ethics considers that the public accountant will refrain from accepting works if one of the parties has a fourth uh, kinship, while I consider family relationship as one of the main threats to the compliance of basic principles of professional ethics because they could cause bias in the mindset of the public accountant. Now we will touch on some cases where ethics failed in companies. For this topic, I will ask my colleague, Lady Marcela, to accept the floor. To add on my colleague Gabi, respecting all the comparison of professional ethics and code of ethics of IFAC, allow me to show you some cases where ethics failed, but also the corporate governance that is part of this professional ethics. Because many of those cases are companies that between themselves have a set of responsibility, and sometimes they are not the appropriate ones, and they are not considered like the most responsible. So this could have adverse effects in the professionalization, the society, the economy. So as we have those cases, we have others because professional ethics or improves, or when we carry out audits based on these cases, we see that many multinational companies that fall in the mismanagement of corporate governance. And this also the press or the news shows like national reputation against these companies, and the company may be affected nationally or globally. And therefore, we also use this. In these cases, I want to show you like the year and place of the situation, description of the situation, people or individuals involved were ethical failed, violent ethical principle, consequences, and what can we do to avoid this kind of situations. The next one. The first case, Enron Corporation. It is widely known. So we can never fail as a company, and ethics cannot fail neither with employees nor at a corporate governance level. So this happened on 2001. Enron is one of the most known cases of fraud in the corporation history. It was dedicated to activities of transportation of natural gas, electricity, internet, and financial markets, with operations in more than 30 countries. The top manager they use an executive team to hide thousands of millions of dollars in debt through accounting artifices, the creation of unreal entities or creation of entities with a special purpose, and some subsidiaries in tax havens. And also they apply highly arguable accounting practices that were validated for many years in order to mask the bad results until the situation became intolerable. Kenneth Lay, founder of electric company Enron, and Jeffrey Skilling, his former advisor delegate, were considered culprit of those deceits. Next one, please. So one of the main violent ethical principle, well, the integrity of the directive was not the right one. The objectivity was lost because the mission and vision was not clear when Enron was created as a company. The competence in many charges or position in the board. There was no independence in the decision-making process, and a poor corporate governance. Well, the competence and professional diligence, confidentiality, and the professional behavior of the accountant, without no doubt, was arguable given all the events that happened. One of the topics that were against the ethics was the manipulation of the accounting and the transfer of data. Associated companies with more than 700 ghost companies created with the same purposes, and this is where the funds went, and also the criteria of the market prices as they sell, as they would sell and buy the same stocks. So they posted the future or current benefits when closing a transaction based on pricing expectation that they manage their own way because they have the ranking of the highest ranking of the business. Also the submission of documents, because one, well, they had a financial platform to put the derivative that were speculating with the price of energy, and at the end they destroy everything but at the end this came to light. Well, the deceit to shareholders, clients, employees, all the pressures put like by the world made that the ethics burst, and at the end they realized that none of these principles were complied. So this is like a case that was very well known in many countries. So those ethics and in the companies that we audit should be duly performed in a good and practical way.
So, therefore, those are the consequences. And as I said, long-term implications are still in place, and several inconveniences have been seen in Mexico. I don't know how much, but yes, it did affect the discovery of this fraud, because you are finding more politicians and high officials that were involved. and companies were also affected. And the final was not so nice with this case. Similar accounting techniques that were used by the same managers, like the World Cup communications company that was also faking information. In 2002, there was an investigation of Enron's huge fraud with the stock exchange of the United States generating very low reliability for this market. The regulatory measures were reconsidered because it was really difficult to see all the lack of trust of these public companies, and the economy was really affected. Next slide, please. Now, talking about ethics, you may say, what shall I do? And I would like to hear about this of each one of the positions. No doubt, a big problem would have been avoided if it was based on ethical values with integrity, responsibility, reliability, professional updating, competences, and respect among colleagues to have a good corporate agreement. And also, they should have carried out their work properly at each one of the roles because their soft attitude contributed to make this scandal bigger. And the professional ethics was at stake, obviously. Now, case number two. This is Volkswagen. No doubt, this is also a case which it is not so famous, but it did affect the economy and the purchase of vehicles. In 2015, some alarming news were known. They were tricking on the limits of the emissions. I knew it was like a reader. Once you tested it, they were tampering with it. So the system was not working properly. So these engineers were tampering on it. So their code of ethics was not in place, obviously. So this affected the economy a lot. Hold on a second. And Volkswagen was a well renowned company. The only fact of making this fraud for emissions limits left some other companies to lose because they had to verify their information on costs and many other consequences of this kind of scandal. The personalities were Oliver Smith and some other engineers in charge of the compliance office between 2014 and 2015. Among the ethics principles, many of them were broken: honesty, responsibility, and the commitment of Volkswagen when they sold vehicles. Obviously, they were not respecting the limits. They knew that these vehicles finally were going to affect the environment and generate an overcost for the economy. One of the consequences, as expected in this case, was that, as I said, that almost 400,000 to 500,000 vehicles needed to be recalled of this model where they made that fraud. So more than 1,000,000 euros in fines, and the drop of all the shares, the reputation of the company, and lack of trust in the company that was selling these models on the motto of respectful of the environment. So lack of integrity, responsibility, and honesty were the lack of ethics. In this case, I believe that when we buy or some other people buy, they should carry out an audit to verify that the conditions are true. When this work is not done, then there's no professional responsibility in place in those vehicles that were bought at global level. Now, case number 3. This is also a multinational company, Kobe Steel. This company was famous for a big fraud in 2017. This is a Japanese company that also had made a fraud in some steel companies used for vehicles, for cargo transportation, and aluminum used for airplanes and many other brands of vehicles. So, in this case, the Hiroshaka Iwasaki was involved. He was in charge of these processes. In this part of ethic principles, lack of moral and responsibility of many of the companies that were part of this aluminum production. So the consumers as Toyota, Hyundai, Mitsubishi, many other industries lost this truth of objectivity and obviously professional intelligence to generate these low reliable products. So the purchasers who bought this aluminum had to return the product. So again, it was remanufactured with the right specifications. Next slide, please. One of the consequences for Kobe was that they lost more than 40% of their share value. In addition to the multiple fines, they received a lot of fines, and it was proven that these companies lost a lot of money. Many of them were settled or broken, and some of these companies were acquiring the aluminum. To prevent the situation from happening, one of the things that could have happened is constant audits. As a producer, company to rectify the product quality with which this company was manufacturing. Next, please. Case number 4, which is Parmalat. It is a similar case to Enron. Parmalat was more known in Europe. This was in 2003. This lack of trust was due to bad practices in these organizations like Parmalat. And that's why this topic is so important when I'm talking about the corporate government. They are usually involved in those con- conduct codes, and these organizations should be transparent in their acts and decisions. So we need to reconsider this from a global perspective, especially close to this current reality. This is the closest case in a society in progress and far away from the environment that we were familiar with in the past. Now, in the case of Parmalat, when they started the investigation, the audit investigators, this was uncovered. Almost $4 million were consolidated. Little by little, they started investigating this company was using some other companies to record assets that were not real, and the accounting was prefabricated. And the Parmalat objective was to hide all these credits that were obtained by Italian banks and the controls of banks to obtain this type of credits, same as the documents that they gathered and created with false bonus to provide some funds to Parmalat. So this was going to be the biggest dairy company in the world. Those individuals involved in this fraud was Calistuta, that was the founder, Fausto Tona, the accountant, the finance chief officer, and also Alberto Ferraes after Fausto Tona was fired. In the case of Parmalat, and this happened for many years, Fausto Tona was the previous accountant. He was the main creator of the legal base. And he gave the order to destroy the accounting systems, computers to falsify documents, and also they falsified some documents of the Bank of America, falsifying some deposits, supposedly where they had that profitability, and they used a lot of copies, other companies' logos, falsification and creation of facade companies to have this double accounting system present in these years. So the principles that were damaged was moral, integrity. Parmalat tried to save the company by making up the results and making presentations in a very general terms. So on the light of these codes of conduct, The responsibility of the board of directors went beyond, so the integrity of codes of ethics are in place and they do not have any fake ones. So, consequences. The impact of this Parmalat fraud was economic impact that was alarming also in Italy and Europe and many other countries, distribution countries, among them Colombia. So there was a lack of supply and also lack of trust among the entrepreneurs in the world. So consumers didn't want to consume this product because the product was faking things and the price increased significantly. And then that's what happened. And lots of laid off workers and also economic losses for the main vendors of these raw materials. They are still undergoing some legal issues due to the severances that they should have paid, and probably creditors will have someday the payment of their processes, and it left without employment a lot of the workers. They were not guilty, but they were affected due to the market recession. Something that should have been done was carry out constant audits. I think that in the case of Enron was the same. We as accountants should have a reliable confirmation of all the documents and values that the company has. I think that this failed in Parmalat, making the audit firm, they realized that these balances, definitely these creditor accounts were not true. And that's how the Parmalat case was reported. These are the four cases, four practical cases that we should have. Ethics was not present in these companies. However, we wanted to share your points of view to those cases that were presented. Now, we're going to give 5 minutes per case to know about your opinions regarding the case studies that we presented, how the situation could have been prevented, which concepts these companies violated when these cases occurred. May I give my opinion? Yes, of course. I am Hector Ferral. We can hear you. Yes, please. That's what we were asking for. Before anything, I would like to congratulate both speakers and communicate to Gabriela and her friend, Lady Marcela Riaño. You have been very clear and accurate. Before I express my opinion, I want to tell Marcela Riaño, this is a surname very common in Veracruz. So probably you have some relatives. That's my town. My birth town? Okay, next year. My opinion is as follows. Four important cases were presented, and there's one missing. Mexico, proa, 100,000 million pesos when it started in the country. But now we're owing 1 billion pesos almost. And just as in the other cases, it was the lack of honesty, of trust. The human structure broke. Ambitious minds, ambitious minds looking for benefits, and they fell in the trap of cheating for personal and business benefits. So ethics failed. And I go back to this concept because ethics doesn't fail. It was the person. So you keep ethics in your soul. This is so sensitive. You need to take care of its elements expressed in the public and private world. So ethics is reciprocal, and it cannot be reciprocal. In this case, they were cheating, and a requirement for ethic is truth. So, on the other hand, I would like to mention as well what Gabi mentioned regarding the fact that ethics should be universal due to public accounting and making a parallel with the IFAC ethics. As Gabriela pointed out, comparing the position for the professional code of ethics of Colombia with the IFAC. And yes, many things are missing, but the spirit is the same, the essence is the same. It is looking for the interior structure of the person with a series of elements we have seen, and I'm not going to repeat, but there's something that I was really interested about. And I might think that this is universal. This is a very difficult fact to consider. The Republic. The difference in Mexico, certification of public notary, we do not have that registration, and we should have changed laws in this respect. So the notary public is certified. So this is something else. I'm not going to get into those details. In the rest of the country, what the United States is even given to a small shop. It depends on the practice that we have for certification. In the rest of the country, I don't know as in Colombia. But there's something interesting here. If we had to publish anything, we need to guarantee that public certification based on factors. Very intimating accounting. First, we need to receive. And in accounting, you need to be patient. It has worldwide principles and orders in order to execute an accounting interpretation. It is not what Gabriela thinks about or her friend with some relatives maybe here, but what the Information International Standard indicates. So those things that are already present in the language where we have the accounting reflection provides trust. It is not what the accountant says. No, this accountant needs to be subject to this language based in a universal principle by identifying the entry and demonstrate it based on this information. Another thing which is also important Sorry. So, another point that I am seeing here that matches with intention that public accountancy expresses public registration is that we agree with something really important. Accounting through auditing should have quality. And considering the speakers, here we have one of them looking at me, and I'm looking at him, Enaldo Nava. He was talking about the quality control standard, and this is precisely the moral of quality. The quality control standard is moral. The cleanliness, clarity, transparency, it is there. And we agree on that because accounting at national level demands auditors to have this as a warranty seal: study, knowledge, practice, discussion, and moral and information quality. And that's the quality control standard. And yes, this is also going to be universal. And then these factors, considering accounting like a science, because every day we apply the technique. When accounting was invented, this word did not exist, and sciences were covered by the church. Yes, but we need to analyze this philosophy thinking where accounting ascends from technique to science, but that's something else. It is not so necessary to define it, but maybe just visualize it. And I would say that notary public would be given to accounting because we can certify and putting reasonable, right? No, I don't think so. We need to confirm by means of an expert opinion that accounting information is in place, is reliable, is safe, and that's why public notary cannot be used, why we do not change this wording. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you, Hector. Very kind from you. And yes, you are right. In our experts report, we are assuming a very big ethical responsibility. So we need to verify this in one or another way. Our professional way was outstanding, and we're leaving clear evidence that we acted in the right manner and we identified the step by step process for this information to provide an expert opinion for the fiscal inspection in this case. Am I allowed to participate? Yes, of course. I'm going to make a comment. First, congratulations for your presentation. We disagree in some specific points, but in general, we agree. But in Mexico, we want the following classification: ethics has values, moral has standards, and you took this farther away and you made this a law that somehow punishes irregular conduct that we sometimes call ethics. But ethics values, for example, as it says, act in this way that your maximum can be raised, general law of observance. This is something really important. It should be of universal nature and respected. But we have the value of freedom, freedom of doing what you deem convenient. Another one, loyalty. We need to be loyal to persons and society and everybody in the authority. Another one, honesty. There's a big number of factors just to mention a few of them. There are too many. Normativity, on the contrary, is to use ethical principles and translate them into standards. Both are supplemented and mutually fed. Moral is translated into laws. There is a legal framework. Moral is taught. There is an educational framework, etc. Finally, you agree on 5 cases. I saw the case of Enron early in the morning. Somehow, they not only violated the code of ethics, not only quality systems, but the law, because they committed fraud. Thank you very much. Thank you. Anybody else wants to express their opinion regarding the cases that we mentioned? Gabi, what Hector mentioned, and I put the case of Mexico. But yes, there's one in Mexico that affects Colombia and Mexico. That's the Odebrecht case that affected the whole world, but mainly our nations, because ethics was absent, values were absent, as Reynaldo pointed out. And not only that, but all people involved in a social and political manner affected professional ethics in one way or the other. That would be an additional case, and I didn't present that one because it is so wide and covers so many countries, and it is still in place. When we talk about the people that have not been discovered yet, with Odebrecht case, that was a worldwide case because not only Mexico was involved, but also Brazil and many other countries. I don't know if, sorry, accountant, we were not able to listen. Yes, I had a problem. So those are the cases that we have. In addition to the Odebrecht case, is there any additional question? Otherwise, this is it on our part. Is there anything to mention about these topics? Speak now or never. There are some cases to discuss. Probably you want to provide an opinion on the cases that you mentioned, because this last case of Odebrecht was really very well known, and there are some opinions on this respect. Carlos Reyes from Venezuela. If we start talking about Odebrecht, this will take the rest of the meeting from here to 5:50 to mention on that. When there is no time, I don't even ask you. I just suggest that questions are mentioned in the chat. So feel free if you want to mention accountant Carlos Reyes. Just as a supplement of what was mentioned, in the case of Odebrecht, they violated the law. It is something really gross. Odebrecht had a department I don't know what auditors they had. They had a department in charge of calculating bribes to the states. Just imagine a whole department for that. If auditors were not aware of this when they were inspecting the organization, they didn't see this in the structure. So it was not hidden, it was in the organizational chart of the company in Brazil, especially in Brazil, where the headquarters were. So, well, that's what I wanted to mention about this. Thank you. Thank you very much. If there are no additional comments, Reynaldo, do you have anything to say on this respect? Go ahead. There are several cases that have not been made public, as the case of the electric energy that included a lot of bribes. So representatives voted to favor a Spanish company in such a way that our Commission of Electricity was neglected. Another case was Mexican oil, Pemex. Through some meetings, and other companies were also involved from the United States and Europe, and now they are complaining what was seemingly sold in a supposedly legal manner. The law was not prohibiting this, and it was not a serious crime, but they should have complied with ethical principles or the moral principles, and they are still under discussion. And we cannot open this because we could be in inconsistencies and affect somebody. So that would be my comment. I don't know if anybody else is interested in mentioning anything else. I would like to add something interesting that I think it's interesting. This wonderful proposal of an universal code for accounting shouldn't be left in words. Not only a presentation that all of us heard and that we are supporting, but let's make a commission to carry out this project, to make it executable. If in the past ethics was present, the Stoics in Greece, they took it to Rome. And then some other philosophers had the same idea. So, man, in its daily activities improve, well, on the 21st century, we need to do the same, but in accounting, even more, because it makes universal the economic, financial interests, and many other aspects, taxes, for example, and all these. But the human stage is provided through ethics, and I would like to propose after we have these interesting talks, let's create a commission.
Okay. And Colombia, too. So the world will know public accountancy is concerned with moral and ethics of its profession and their members. I think we lost you. We didn't hear anything. Any other comment? Well, you were planning to hold like round tables. Okay, so I think that it's good to have a debate and a dialogue with all the partners. Hopefully, someone else would like to participate in this comments. But did you hear my proposal? Yes, of course. Thank you. So, please, colleagues, friends. So, I I wrote in the chat the title of a new film, Scandal. I just posted it on the chat box. I think is interesting. I'm downloading it. And then we can have a discussion. If you want to share this with us, well, I just wrote it on the chat box. Thank you very much. Someone else has a comment? There are films after the scandals happened in other entities that become films. Andron has its own movie, and another one is the true story of a fraud. It is a real case. It is a fantastic movie, shows the code of ethics, and I forgot the name of another person that also participated in tax. If there's a fraud, also limits not only is to hide the amount of tax that is not paid by embezzling our own country, but also other aspects are covered in which our government becomes like the main tax collector. But the hilarious thing here is our government is made of many politicians, and they are part of this breach or ethics failure. So how come we are administering this government if our own politicians are included or are involved, like Odebrecht and other multinationals, where we have seen this lack of professional ethics, and in many other areas like tax collection. I don't know if Atanasio, yes, Atanasio was able to hear you. Yes, we heard you. So I was saying that I have many cases. If we're going to be talking about cases in a round table, Apple, for example, that was a scandal that affected in 2017, and this started when a user, when he informed the software, reduced the performance of the iPhone, and obviously it was auto-corrected when changing the battery. And he says the lack of the ethic installing the wrong products, and at the end they had a product that at the end was really good, but when the quality is affected makes it bad, so the economy is reduced and also many things were affected, and the multinational was affected and many employees paid for the mistake because they weren't employed anymore. Good afternoon, Joaquin Vega. I'm listening very carefully. Um, we're talking Enron and other companies mentioned today, but this is an example of what shouldn't be happening. Be because with a good or bad intention, and regardless of, of installing practice to review or analyze or follow up is such important topic. I think that at, at any point it has been discarded the initiation, but we are immersed in our profession. However, in the way, Leslie, of this jungle, professional jungle, we may find bears. And talking about jungles in any kind of animals in the forest, like bears. So to so I would like to use this space. They want to use this space to not to feel hungry anymore, as we have the food chain in the animal reign, and in the same way we find food chain in plants. So in the same way we can find this chain to get rid of the connotation of jungle or forest. Uh, I believe that ethics that goes beyond philosophy, but in a strict enforcement, as I mentioned it before. So, like, we shouldn't blame the house where one person was born and raised and reproduced. No, as we were taught at school. But our home is, in general terms, regarding our profession. But we shouldn't leave our homes, but sometimes the environment is pushing us to practices and and in a and without noticing it, we are immersed in practices because of the lack of information we get to this point. So where we get lost? That's my question. So ethics and quality has a lot to do with tax payments. Let us remember the entry of the certification process that was voluntary at the beginning, and and we started certifying ourselves, and then the treasury secretary demanded this, but first it was demanded by the public education secretary, and then the secretary of public education said that in order to be performing an opinion or an audit, firms should be certified. But back then, there's a breakthrough or a watershed when they said it's not necessary to have an expert opinion because the accountant is not needed for an audit. This is what they said by adding words or not. The corresponding authorities looked at our profession like saying that accountants, auditors were not needed. And this gave rise to ghost companies where financial entities were involved, government entities, nonprofit organization, through a network of companies, private companies, where shareholders didn't know the origin of it, the sale of invoices. This was clearly identified by the financial intelligence unit, but there are tools and platforms and technology to detect that. But but the plan of entrepreneurial fraudulent activities were like appeared because of weak controls, and they took advantage of the academics or the experts to stop paying taxes because they didn't want to pay for those taxes. So this was found in the practice of events that were not executed in the right way. The best practices of companies or best practices of government, the best practices of services provision, all the ethics must prevail. And this has a lot to do with the origin. What's the origin of this? It's the professional ethics code. So, Reynaldo, I think this is how we need to summarize this. We can't hear you, Reynaldo. When I was studying, well, the code were 20 pages, and everything was included there, and we didn't have this kind of situations. As time went by, we had to create a legal framework. The Code of Ethics, I have it here. This is the most recent one, edited by the Institute. Now, those are real compendiums that should be complied. The financial information standards in some way were included in few documents, and everything was complied. Now we need to be accurate because the behavior of an individual has changed, and the aspects that in some way have has changed is the fact of wanted to get richer in this vulnerates the behavior of individuals. I see the cases. We commented this with Joaquin of Finland and Singapore. So they went from the Stone Age when Finland was expelled from the Soviet Union. They had like a wait. It was expelled, and with 40 cents left. In Singapore, the same thing happens. English retired, and the island was really destroyed. But based on education and more education, and mainly the creation of values. And this is very important. And one of those values is culture. Everybody has to act with honesty. Everybody has to act with respect. Everybody has to act with responsibility, and so on. And it was mandatory. Everybody must study. Everybody went to study. Even the governor of Singapore, that was illiterate, went to school, and he sent his father to school. So, how this can be solved? The Secretary of Education of Finland said, with education and more education. And this is acquired in school, college, many places. But where does it start? In at home with the family. And what you are presenting leave evidence how the human mindset has changed. And we are more interested, as someone said, when it sounds metal, is that there's money. And in some way has has that has allowed the corruption of whales translated in big frauds of any kind, of any kind. So be in politics, education, in our profession, and like for example, food industry. It is producing food that are not good and get people sick. And this is because of lack of ethical values. Who prepares food? And food engineers, they preserve, add, and flavor them so they will be attractive. And we need to correct this. How? I don't know. But we need to strengthen education and values. And in our case, values are found in the code of ethics and the professional code of ethics. Thank you, Reynaldo. Well, I think uh, someone wants to speak. Jorge Hernandez, how are you? So this is a very relevant topic, and we can spend hours talking about it. But we are in decadence, and the last decadence took 400 years to get rid of it. Why? Because, like the Odyssey tells, and the roads back then to get rid of the Odyssey and Iliad, it was a whole Odyssey to overcome all the problems.
In this case, human is considered in three parts: vile and depraved, vile and depraved, because above a human is the superhuman, and that's the divine. And very few are considered there, but we are just getting filled of cruel infrahumans, rapers, homicides, those that sell bills, and this takes to decadence. And the last one, it took us only 400 years to get rid of it. So let's think about how long we want this stage to last. And the ethics comes from Aristotle. So I think that the only thing that we can do is that try to be in the best side of human beings. And when I'm talking about human beings, I'm talking about virtues that can be, and the avere will be, even if they are aware, I would do this because it's good, or I want to do that because that's bad. And the depraved that doesn't know why they do that. Let's not fall in the infrahuman side. There are many of them right now. And they consider that as a normal thing. We are full of them. And we can see this in our country, in our city, in many other places. We see this in other messages. For example, the war of Ukraine. There was a message right now that Putin and the Ukrainian are just going to unleash World War III. So, yes, let's keep on being humans, but among them, try to be in the prudent pro-life thing. Thank you very much, accountant. I think that this is also a very relevant comment. The human nature is unpredictable, and we don't know who to blame all the time, but we might just contribute with our part so our surrounding improves according to what we are contributing with and who we are with day after day. Any other comment? We still have 25 minutes left. Our chairman already made a proposal. Hopefully, you start getting qualified in quality. And I disagree a little bit. If Singapore and Finland came from the Stone Age to the First World in 45 years, I think that in a very short period, if we decide to change, we can manage to do that, even if I'm not going to be able to see that yet. I don't know if you want to supplement anything, but ethics, it's a so relevant aspect. How to understand a woman, and then you start going from one thing to another thing. But ethics, it's a core element. Ethics starts from home, then at school, college, daily life, and professionally. If I started to apply that at home in an honest manner, I'm going to continue with that in my professional life. If not, it's going to be very difficult. It's like a book to understand a woman. You're not going to finish these 20,000 pages. You don't need to understand it, you need to practice it. So it is when we start practicing this and we need to adapt to it and understand it from our daily life since we are young. It's like I am honest, I practice. So we have that ethic role. And certainly we will continue applying this. We're ethic persons. If we continue practicing this, we're going to create and generate values, and we can transmit these same values in other people. So this practice is the proper one, and we are in the first world in less than 40 years. So we are the first year to do it in the proper manner. If you read a book called Sinue the Egyptian, Ramses II attained this in a very short period of time. What happened? Now, talking about notaries, the first thing was that to finish notaries that were having wrong conduct, and then lawyers that were also incurring in irregular actions. Prostitution, then, when they were trafficking with women, and he managed to do that in a very short period of time. And of course, finishing with all these meant the sacrifice of many human beings. And he formed a whole generation. So in Egypt, we have the derivation of all religions, with the exception of the China religion and the Indian religion, but almost all of them. But this was based on strength. But we don't need to go so far. Ramses II made a miracle. Why? Because Egypt was just in decadence. So we need to do something, and we should do it. The firm already made a proposal, and probably this is the principle to come to a good end. Thank you. We don't need to wait for 40 years, doctor, I think. And probably our surroundings need to be modified. Don't you think so? Anybody wants to give an opinion about this? Well, with no further ado, is there any other comment? Gabi, Marcela, any of you? Just to supplement the cases that have been mentioned and everything that we have said. Not only there were frauds at taxes level, but also violations in the area of ethics. There was a case of McDonald in 2020, Hong Kong, where they were hiring children in the factories more than 12 hours a day. Children were working between 12 and 13. So there was obviously a lack of integrity of the persons that were working, and obviously the lack of justice in the company. We need to keep in mind that they were minors and working for these long hours. This can affect a lot. So, to conclude, one question. What was the transition to come to Law 43? Lay 43. How they did it. Because the truth is that Colombia is acknowledged in the professional accounting level. So, at least in my case, they are a little bit more advanced from what we have done. And a lot of people go to Colombia to take training courses. How was this transition? Yes, I can hear you. This transition has some history. The law was designed in 1990, but it comes from the past more than 40 years. The history. Sorry, Marcela. There were some regulations, some provisions, and decrees before that. Yes, Gabby. And it would be the same story of Colombia. Here, we also had some cases with ethics in creating companies, management, and corporate governance gave rise to the creation of decrees so they were legal. So that's how this professional ethics was created in 1990 that we still have in force and place. And we have good practices for a good corporate government, even when we still have cases where any faults or bad corporate governance for these companies. Thank you. Well, if there are no other comments, now I'm going to give the floor to Eduardo Torres Vidal so he can hand out the diploma of participation to our speakers for this excellent topic. Congratulations, Accountant Eduardo. Please, you have the floor. Are you there? My gratitude, Judith, for allowing me to give these words and recognition for our friends, colleagues from Colombia that are with us to give us some, to shed some light on ethics and reflection points to be better professionals and accountants. So, my acknowledgement and the satisfaction of having heard your topic. Maria Gabriela Salina Rodriguez and Leida Marcela Riaño Gonzalez, both from Colombia. My gratitude, congratulations. Let's learn much more from you. Thank you. All my regards to all of you. Thank you. Thank you very much. We continue with the agenda and we're coming to the end. And to close, for me, it is very important to mention the next topic. And who better to give us some backgrounds than accountant Reynaldo Nava. Mr. Nava, can you give us some context on the next topic that we're going to be hearing about? Your microphone is off, accountant. My apologies. I want to mention that this is quality as generator of businesses and growth. Last time I heard the same speaker, he did a wonderful job on a similar topic. And I believe that he's not going only to improve the topic, but he's going to be even better. If our services are of quality, the best promotion is the one that goes mouth to mouth. When someone recommends professional services of a person, it's because they know the results. So somehow he's going to show to us how he has done it in Jamaica to attain this. Go ahead. Sorry, Judith, can you give a brief bio of Oscar Vera, please? Yes, of course. Mauricio is saying that it is not Jamaica, but Dominican Republic. But Oscar Vera knew about that. Yes, that's right. So it is my honor to present this personality, and the presentation is authentic. We can see that your picture is with movement inside your presentation. That's great. Looks wonderful. I don't know how you did it, but it looks great. I was surprised. These modern men inventions. It is my honor to introduce Jose Veras Oscar, certified public accountant. He worked at Price Waterhouse Coopers for about 8 years with the position of audit manager, part of the responsible team of learning education for the KWC, Santiago de los Caballeros, and Santo Domingo. Currently, audit partner of the MHTTP Auditors and Consultants and member of UC&CS Global, a member of the Quality Committee from Dominican Republic. In addition, wide experience in audit fields, more than 22 years in the major and multinational companies in Dominican Republic. Additionally, he is a professor at the Autonomous University of Santo Domingo as a panelist and speaker. Additionally, a master's degree in business management and administration, speaker and panelist for international events and creator of value contents in financial and economic matters. So it is my honor, and I really want to hear his presentation. We give you the floor, all yours. Go ahead, please. Good afternoon. Can you hear me well? Yes? Okay. Perfectly. And we see you very well on the screen, very original. Thank you, thank you. Okay, once again, good afternoon. Thank you, Mauricio, Judith, Adrian, all the team, the backstage team that is with us every year and makes possible this important event of the firm for updating. Reynaldo, Joaquin, Miguel Angel, all of you, all the partners that contribute to this important event. Look, along the whole day, we have been talking about quality. That is, we have been having a dialogue with this companion that we should have at each job assignment. This companion that only lives on Sunday and holidays. And this is quality. Now, with your permission, of the Joaquin Vega from the Quality Committee, I'm going to ask authorization so I can give my opinion and I can refer to quality as the growth element, which is the final goal for us. I want to start. Hold on a second. Okay, now it's moving. So I want to start with this introduction. And with this, we're going to start. The most sophisticated auditing systems are useless and no ethics if the firm is not generating client satisfaction that then creates businesses. With this, we're going to continue. Firms keep a quality control system for audits designed to exceed the requirements of applicable professional standard issued by the IAASB, the Ethics Code for Accounting Professionals, requirements of standards, and also policies and procedures of quality. Look, in this case, by UC&CS America. Now, look, all day, these are the core topics. We have been talking about regulations and we have talked about the different standards, regulation, and manuals and quality policies. But we're missing one additional element which we saw in the introductory paragraph. Look at this in the last line, customer satisfaction. When we talk about quality, we need to overlap this, that this compliance goes hand in hand with customer satisfaction. And this is where us, the smaller firms, have an important business gap. In the case of big firms, there's a big concentration in regulation compliance devoted to mitigate internal risks. So, I am protecting so much to appear review my own internal standards before regulatory organizations that I am not observing my customer. I'm losing sight of my client. If there's no client satisfaction, if even if I am in compliance, we cannot talk about quality. We're not going to forget about that, but we need to combine compliance with customer satisfaction to translate quality into business. Otherwise, it's just a technique for the auditor. And you are going to see this. Let's see several quality concepts. And you would ask yourself, why so many quality concepts? Because I need and I want to grow a clear concept. Quality is defined based on the manufacture of product and services that satisfy customer needs with right costs and contribute to the success of the company. Right costs, so right fees for our firms to the size of our firm and reputation that we have in our country. These are associated to professional fees, and then we contribute to the success of the firm. In 1979, Crosby indicated that the quality of a good service is equivalent to its correspondence with the requirements of the customer. Therefore, there's a correlation between conformity and the absence of quality. That is, when our customers are not agreeing with our quality, this is related to the lack of quality. This definition says that we need to trust to overlap satisfaction to compliance to make businesses. And let's continue with other quality concepts. Let's say that quality is just exceeding expectations of the customer along the life of the service or product. In all these years that we render services to a customer, we need to have quality. But we also say that quality is fitting a service to the use of the customer. There's a common element. In this definition that we have seen, the element customer is not mentioned in the compliance element. Obviously, these regulations contain in an intangible manner the satisfaction of the customer. They are designed so we generate quality products, but we need to be clear about the difference. We need to make sure that our customers are satisfied when we talk about quality. And I repeat, this will not set us away from regulations. I need to make sure my customers are satisfied beyond compliance. Are we understanding now this? Okay. Now, let's combine this. We say quality in service. That's a different concept. We're talking about quality. Now, let's talk about quality in service. And this is the space where we can interpret the needs and expectations of the customer and then offer an affordable, useful, timely service. And I say timely and reliable as well. I repeat, reliable. We're going to touch these words frequently. And the customer is surprised with a bigger value added. Surprised with more added value. So, this is the way in which we need to target, execute our work in such a way that the customer receives more than what he expects. And what does he want? Listen, customers know. And that's why it is important for us when we are managing all the standards, IASFs, and regulatory elements. Therefore, when the customer understands compliance, he really makes them for default. So we need to generate this with businesses. Now, how auditors are going to add value here? I'm not going to give you an answer right now to this question because it's going to be answered along my presentation.
When we conclude the presentation, we know how the auditors can add value to the client in such a way that we will exceed the expectations of the client that goes beyond a simple financial statement report. What is the importance of a quality service to grow in the market? We're talking about business from a technical standpoint. The importance of a quality service to grow in the industry. There's four elements. A quality service improves your reputation. 90% of clients are influenced by positive opinions of the brand, and this fosters most advertising of others. It's just word of mouth. This is when the client refers to its peers or professionals and talks about ourselves. This is the word of mouth, but it could be positive or negative. What will determine if the word of mouth would be positive or negative, if the service has quality or not? The unsatisfied clients do remain silent and they just change for another firm. The satisfied client does not say anything, but the satisfied client says this: I would like you to review this and that. Paradoxically, this is the satisfied client telling us what they like about us, but also making recommendations. Quality service saves money to each one of the firms. And according to a note published in Huffington Post, attract a new client is 7 times more expensive than returning one existing client. Clients are retained with quality products and services. Let's remember that we need to perform different marketing strategies. In Dominican Republic, the accountant law regulates advertising. Advertising cannot be done in traditional media. As a result, the best advertising that we may have to attract clients or retain clients is the the quality. So to get new clients costs a lot, and it costs. If a friend refer us a client, it is to give a fee for this referral. When this is how we do it. But if we want to retain a client, it's a cost that we shouldn't have for the recurring clients, but for new clients, we must do this. A good service increases your revenues. This is what we want. According dimensional research studies, 52% of consumers perform an additional purchase with the company after a positive service experience. And in order to be positive, should have our great friend quality in order to be positive. Okay, when we talk about 52%, so our recurring portfolio, hopefully will not lose any clients in 1 year, but the recurring clients we need them to buy one additional service as auditors, and we are fiscal advisors, and they can buy from us an additional service. So we may be fiscal advisors and not auditors of a company. But if we offer quality, the probability to be hired for other services like audit or other kind of advisory is very high. And so with 52% of additional purchase, but we try to increase the revenue with our recurring clients, maintaining the portfolio, but at the same time, we need to have new services with these same clients and improving the retention of those clients. And only with quality we will achieve this. And last, finally, the loyalty of clients. Clients that receive quality audit services are maintained for a long time. Well, the clients are maintained by several reasons, but the quality is number one, and fees as well. And those are the main elements with which the clients make ourselves their recurring auditors. So our competition is not focused on fees. So we need to compete in quality. This is the main element in order for us to compete in the market, because we are competing with many competitors, but also with strong competitors like the big four. And when we can make the difference with big four, it could be in quality, because we know the standards and we know that we need to provide a good service. And this is not defined by a big four. We define this as service providers. So this is how we can be loyal, increase loyal with clients. I don't want to I don't like competing with fees. Our firm distinguishes itself is with quality. So for a client to changes could be for any reason but quality, but something you will think this is strange. Can we lose client with good because of good quality? This is my question. This is food for thought. So at the end, we will answer this. Can we lose clients because of a good quality? I will put it on the table. So at the end, we will try to answer it. Now, what are the main characters of quality in the relationship firm client businesses? We're not talking about relationship ICQ1, ISQ2 regulators firms. No, here we're talking about firm, client, and businesses, make businesses or do businesses. There are four main elements in a firm, and please pay special attention. So we will grow. At the center, there's the client, and with the key elements strategy of the firm, its people, and systems. So we will cover each one of them. The strategy, as the main character says, the main objective of the strategy should be the cause of a favorable impression in client every time that makes contact with any department of the firm. So it's to cause a good impression. No, every time the client makes contact with our firm. So we will link two elements. It's people. The line that connects client with people of the firm is the point of contact of interaction where the service is provided and received. What what do they need to have in order to be make contact with the client in order to achieve the objective of the strategy? This good impression. So it has to have technicism and a good interaction with the client. If our staff does not have technicism and a good interaction with the client, we are not going to be able to link strategy with client and its people. Now, what does that mean? So that we must design communication strategies with the client. The ones can answer something on a technical aspect as partners is to guarantee the experience of a experienced staff to answer with the most certainty to the client. So the junior staff will not be responsible of answering technical issues. Why does this happen? Because clients do not distinguish between a junior staff and the firm. When a staff junior gives an answer to the client, the firm answered. And if it's a wrong answer, the client understands that the firm and its auditor misguided it. So that's why we need to have the right communication with clients in technical aspects. Finally, in order to include uh, encompass everything. We have systems. This is the line that connect client with systems, helps to provide the service because it includes the procedures and teamwork. So the system help to be more efficient. As we are more efficient, we have more custom client satisfaction. If someone is not understanding, please stop me. Anything that you would like me to elaborate on. So, what are the advantages of audit tasks with quality? So, first, in businesses, like a greater repetition of business with the same clients, audit, taxes, advisory, and others. Why I want to talk about this? Because when we attract a new client, we attract the client through a line of service. And to get the client to buy other services, this is directly related to quality. Most clients are not go to the if we provide a good service in audit, it's very likely that the client will hire us for the fiscal part, also for the advisory in any important business transaction, like a sales of a line of business, mergers, acquisition, advisories, or any other type of service. If we are a tax advisor to for our clients, and it is likely that will have we will provide an audit service. So every time we need to broaden the services we provide, so we can grow even without new clients. We can grow by selling different lines of business to clients with quality, because if we do not do a good job in work one, it's likely that we won't do the work number two. More clients through word of mouth and referrals or of satisfied clients. In satisfaction of a client, always it is a good conversation with peers. In satisfaction of a customer is always a pleasant conversation to have with peers. When a satisfied client, when talking to other people, if our service is not good, this will be passed on to a potential client. So we need to provide the best service so the word of mouth is good. But because when it's not good, the client gives details of everything. Less complaints and reclamations are less complaints and reclamations, and therefore less expenses caused by non-invoiceable management. With BCI, this is where we have the most problems. If we commit a mistake, we present like a format with a mistake. It turns out that we need to invest time in the management. It's something that will not be invoiceable. Imagine it's like with SAT in Mexico. So we need to reduce that to the minimum. The time invested in reclamations and complaint will not be invoiceable, and this will affect our reputation. Also, the a better image and reputation of the firms is advantage of a quality work, differentiation of the firm vis-a-vis the competitors. The only way in which a small network or small firms to compete with the big auditors firm is by making the difference with quality, because we do not have the schemes they have. We are not registered to the bodies they are registered, like IFAC. We do not have the amount of staff. There are many things that we have a disadvantage, and the only element that could be like above the level to comply with the law and its quality. So why we do not use this word to quality to create more business? I I believe in that. That quality is that gives business to the small firms, because we can compete equal to equals, because we are technical as them. We manage AIS and other standards. We manage the regulatory elements with the banking system, Institute of Public Accountants. We'll, we need to connect quality with client because the big firms covering internal risks, they they forget the client. Well, most of the times when the clients change from a big four to a mid-sized firm like ours, it's because of lack of compliance. Normally, they don't complain about the quality. I'm not saying that they do not have quality. They do not complain about the quality, Deloitte or EY, but they complain for lack of compliance. So, Oscar, and why lack of compliance? Because they are not compliant because they lose connection with the client. So that is why we need to use this legal framework and the compliance, and we will be at the same level of the major leagues. Less staff turnover, our employees feel good when working for a company that where they are able to grow and they are more prestigious and they feel valued by those clients because the firm where they work offers a good quality service because they are proud of working with us and naturally more market share, and this is what we have to increase our revenues. So, because we're talking about the of growth and business creation. So this presentation will not be completed if we without presenting these cases, real cases of our daily work and how we have generated business from quality. Everything may sound rhetorical, beautiful, normative, or like fantasy, but this we will show you this black and white. For example, we the case CDC. What CDC is a company? It's our client. So we were hired because in 2020 the transparency and welfare valuation, so any company could make an asset transparent that was not presented before the authority. So how we got to this company? So we valued the company. That was our first service. We gave a good service. The client was satisfied. As a second service was the audit. So we were the auditors for 2020 and 2021. The third service, it was the accompaniment of the selling of the entity. It was revalued and there was a sell intention. So we accompany them in this sale process to a company of foreign capital, more than $50 million. So everything came from service one, which was the valuation of the company. Approximate fees as a whole during 2020, 2021 and ending with the selling of the company at the beginning of 2022. The fees invoice 800,000 US dollars. They didn't know us. Someone referred us to them. So this is how we generated business. If we had provided a bad service, we wouldn't have being able to have the second, third, and fourth service. So we are in new projects in the establishment of a new company in a very important industry of the country. This is how we create business with quality. And this is word of mouth, friends referral. Laza Cesar, It was referred from a friend, and it's a very important entity that manufactures cigars. And then we, so there are five companies, and we have uh, annual fees for $100,000. And because of this friend, there's this company and another company that is called referred by the same friend for the word of mouth, Asociación Peravia and Lab Amadita. So when someone is referring a firm that provides quality and the professional prestige is not at stake, the word of mouth again, another friend referred us to Operavit, and also another company referred, which is the most important lab of the country, which it is called Lava Madita, another company that is called Leitza. All of them were services that we just gave quality services and built trust. And another company, which is equally important, lottery, which is Leitza. So we provided audit services, and we are the auditors of the raffles. So those examples is not because of the name of Franklin Eraspe, or not because of Oscar Veras, or not because Montserrat or Casilda, the managers, the staff. It's not because of our names that we provided those services. Those services were granted because we provided quality services to those clients. So this is how we create business from quality. When I was start beginning, we talked about the standards issued by ISP and regulators. So what happens? That this is quality for us as auditors because we have standards that regulate our profession and procedures that we perform. The quality from the customer perspective is different, is very different as we see it as a firm because client supposes that when they hire a service, we already know everything. So let's see what the customer takes into account as quality. So we will provide this and do business and retain them. This is not easy to do. So treatment and accessibility on the this is from the client perspective, personalized attention. We talked about strategy. The strategy defined by the firm is aligned with the personalized attention to customers. When they make contact for the first time with the firm, they will feel that we care about them and we need the managers and partners for this. And the second element, which is the differentiator element regarding big firms, opportunity, delivery on time. Most of the times, Big Four comply with the quality standards, and when they are covering their own internal risks, they put aside the timeliness. And that is why some clients choose to work with us. Because at the end, if you deliver a report that is compliant with standards, with the regulator, with all the manuals regarding quality, but the client needed the reports ready for the 30th of April, or they needed to get a loan and the reports were not ready, and as a result, the loan was not granted, what happened? So the report that report that we deliver uh, got lost in the timeliness. So the other element, as important as timeliness, is that value added. Value added. How auditors, and I will ask you this question, how we can add value as auditors. The best document is the management letter, where we identify the weaknesses of the business with the implications they may have inside the business and the recommendations we give to the client. This is the only mean, apart from communication, by which we can add value to the client. Management letter, and this will help us a lot to do business. On the manager area side, we need to have a limited review of fiscal compliance, DTI, and also finance, administration, and IT. The, to review the weaknesses or internal control. This is where we can add value. In an audited report, we are not added a lot of value. Value added is generated from the manager letter. Communication, clear with the governance of the entity. We have the trust. It is to be empathetic, to put ourselves in the shoes of the client. This is how the client sees us. Also, the knowledge of the business, understanding of the client on our side, and you know it very well. We go 3 weeks per year to a company, but they have something wrong in the business and they have a problem. They call the auditors to ask matters of their daily business. And so we need to understand the client in terms of the operations of the business, competences, professional qualification of the firm and its staff. And this is achieved by training, image of the staff, good presence, and professional attitude. And since we're talking about client, fair fees.
Fair professional fees. Now, let's continue. Which are the benefits in the business that can contribute to the customer or client? Which are the benefits that generate business you can contribute to your clients? Identification and timely communication of risks. And this is a letter to the management. Identification, risk, communication, and business contingencies through a letter to the management. Those are benefits. Contribute to decision making with your report for our customers. Encourage or also foster legal compliance. Increase reliability level of shareholders. Every time our customers are satisfied with the service, they are going to be recurrent customers, and they can also refer us as auditors, increasing reliability of all of them, and also a yearly talk about interest topics. This last point, having a yearly talk on topics of interest. This is a new topic in the firm. This is choosing an interesting topic, business interest, to have an update business talk to our customer. Something we did this year in the Dominican Republic. We have a modification on Title I with important changes for tax purposes with a lot of important risks. And we are having these conversations with the most important customers to see which are the changes and risks. And they like that as an additional service. Yes, they like it. And this is a differentiator. Not everybody does that. So, this is the way in which we can create benefits for the customers. Finally, it is true, these are the services in general and they are associated to auditing. And yes, I wanted to mention this. Why you lose customers? Why? 5% have a friend with a competitor, so they leave. Two, 9% because competitors have a good offer. We can also do that and we can also have customers. But well, 14% due to the bad quality of service. And look at this, 68% due to neglection or bad attention. Bad attention to the customer is part of bad quality, low quality. Why? If we adopt 14% with 68%, then we can conclude that 82% of customers leave due to service bad quality. That means that this element should be taken into consideration by us and provide priority to make each one of our firms grow. So listen well, 82% customers leave due to bad quality. They don't say that they are leaving for something else but bad quality. Conclusion of everything that we have said. Now, to turn to any question and session answer. Nowadays, there's a big competition. Therefore, it is fundamental to extend competitive advantages to survive. And service quality is one of these advantages that we can grow as long as we follow quality standards of the profession and connection with the client and their environment. Comply with standards and satisfy the client. With this, we can talk about absolute quality. So, thank you very much for having me here. Oscar, there is a question. If I am rendering good quality, why do we have changes? That's a very good question. Yes, it has happened, but those are exceptions to the rule. Yes, before answering that question, I can recommend something. Wishfully, every time a customer leaves, he leaves for good quality. And you know why? Because the probability of a customer changing, then coming back to us will exceed 90%. So, if a customer is going to change, he changes for good quality because you comply with all the regulations of UC&CS and all the standards. So, in 2011, I provided services to a cooperative. And that institution, it's a super premium. They have state of the art technology, all established controls and comply with all regulations. So they were not accepting uh, what I had. Obviously, this document had weaknesses and they cannot assimilate those weaknesses. They are really perfectionists. Therefore, they were not happy with this letter to the management. And I am going to tell you that from 2011, they were asking for a proposal, but they kept asking us. And since last year, they are our customers again. If they had changes due to bad quality, I'm sure that they wouldn't have come back. If they leave with bad quality, they would leave silently and will not get back. So it's good that they leave us for good quality. Did I answer your question with that? And yes, we have had that case. Customers leaving. Certainly, they think that everything is right, and maybe some internal control observations are not a high risk. And for them is no, we cannot going to go with this point, so they leave. I offer my point, my quality, my services can be rendered properly. So yes, this is a good question. And quality is also be referred with a customer. That happens. Many of our clients are referrals. Only a few of them came just because they received a proposal. The rest, all of them are referrals. And this is due to good quality and the value added as a firm. Some other firms, in our case, now talking about magnetic media, are not signed. And as they are not signed, they say, I'm not going to review that. If I am a person providing good quality, I need to make sure that this information is well presented because otherwise I'm going to have a sanction. And this is the added value that we provide. And also training to new regulations. We invite clients and referrals so they are constantly trained and they go at the same pace of the regulations. This is an added value, and other firms are not doing that. We share that standard and we invite them to share a conference, a work table with new concepts for you as a company, how this can affect to you these new topics, added values, the quality and service is going to be wonderful and a differentiator. I congratulate you to talk about quality and business referrals. That's the point. Okay. And yes, some of them are have been for more than 18, 15 years, and this is giving us a positive point, and we're rendering a quality service. Excellent, excellent. The icing of the cake. Some people receiving our final report is the top management. Usually, the person working with the audit team is the financial management. When they are attacked by these points, usually they give some comments to the top management saying that we are not the best. And when they change, they realize that we're delivering superior quality work. When they leave, they come back because we do comply even more to what they expect. Excellent. A letter to the management goes to the top management as it reads, and that's where they can appreciate. In financial statements, if they are audited, they are for internal use or for banks and compliance. But when you give a letter to the management, they feel criticized, but they also perceive value added. Oscar, look, this is Reinaldo Nava. First of all, congratulations and my apologies for changing you the nationality. I hope this won't happen again. And this reminded me what we every Saturday morning and then Fridays we did at the office to create that culture with all this information that you presented. First, analyzing our work along the week, arising problems, all the recommendations in order to provide good attention to our customers. According to the position, we could also visit the managers of the company so they knew what we did and what were the findings. So I congratulate you because your presentation was quite clear. We already did that. And another thing, we shouldn't believe in the company if we didn't have a new business. We almost managed to do that. Good contribution, either in the public or private sector. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good contribution. Anybody else? It seems that no. Go ahead. Hello, Oscar. Good presentation. Excellent. Same as the other speakers. I have to say something. We were talking about that a few days ago with my partner in Guayaquil. And yes, when we were talking about this subject, as any other which is aligned to quality and auditing systems, there was a very punctual situation here. In this list of certified auditors in Ecuador is superintendents of companies. Well, with them specifically, they qualify both individual or corporations, such as ours. But there are no parameters, basis with which we can score professional fees. So companies can pay for our services. In this sense, my question is, even when we are very clear about the quality that should be aligned and streamlined and demonstrate before our clients that kind of service. In our country, any company in general, not only with audit firms, with any kind of company, when we talk about professional fees, there's a high competition regarding professional fees. We have had internal dialogues at the firm as the IFC group. And yes, we want to be clear. We want to implement and use everything that we need. But how? How to define this scenario? The increase in time, because this is going to be an additional effort that we need to comply with. So our professional fees do not drop. And with this, due to that fierce competition in our country, There are mid-size or big companies that are going to find an individual, and this happens in our sector, and certainly in many countries this happens. But this is a very strong constraint that we have. So we need to increase our activities to demonstrate equality with our customers. But this effort, that budget of ours to cover for our work, finally is, well, let me go back. It's not going to be retributed or compensated with that fee. There are some big companies that sometimes prefer to contract a person, and their fees, and even companies which are in the firm forum of firm, they have very low fees. We have assessed that, and then we ask ourselves how to align to this, not to get involved in the time involved to carry out our activities. Those are some topics that need to be considered in this respect. How can you think think how you can mention this before new customers, new clients? We are aware that we need to be aligned and offer quality services. We try to do it, of course, but the bigger the support we have and using quality systems ethics, how we can align that to prevent this issue from happening. Vicente, very interesting because I know that this is a generalized issue. We need to compete with our market, and that includes also individuals and corporations. Logically, when they don't have that firm structure, which is bigger, then they can charge less. We need to know that as auditors, we need to live with that. This is part of normality. Compliance with all regulations, external policies of UC&CS demands more hours that will absorb budget per hour. But we need to see the business based on the new businesses given the quality, even if we have more hours. Why? Because we are committed to provide quality services. We cannot decrease our quality in exchange of associating that with professional fees. We provide quality, yes or yes. If not, it's better not to have them as customers. And Montserrat mentioned that concept of firm boutique. We do not use that term, but that's what I mean. A boutique firm. Those clients of us know that we're not the cheapest, but we have the best quality. And you can impose that. In order to do it, you need to be available and willing to invest time. So we need to invest service quality for our clients. And I have a sentence, and I don't want to be associated to cheap service. I don't like them to look for me for low prices. But if you want quality, that's where you are. I don't want to be linked to low fees. No, but quality work. And you can attain that because we cannot differentiate quality from our work because this is our Bible. We have the guidance, regulating bodies, and UCNCS. All these elements are forcing us to have quality, so this is not negotiable. We just have 7 minutes left. I want to give an example. Yes, go ahead. Very clear your presentation, Oscar. Thank you very much. With your permission, and I ask for a permission to exceed and to get apart from the technical element. Look, Oscar, you are not setting aside from the topic and goal because one of the elements of quality is client satisfaction. If there is no satisfaction for the client, then quality is not delivered. So sometimes the client leaves, even if you have quality, because that's precisely the client. That's how they are managing this. As you are mentioning this in an open and positive manner, there are many other persons that, due to their profession, they develop that through the sale of services, right? By selling the service as if they were selling any other product, less quality and not the service that we're talking about. Then, as lady mentioned, this customer will get back maybe later because what we perceived as an easier, quicker exit due to the complexity of accounting standards, the complexity of tax regulations that are difficult to comply with, they said, I am leaving. But then they get back because at the end, they realized that something that they thought it was going to be quicker and cheaper ended up as a blockage, obstacle, and they could have just went backwards instead of progressing. So, in the area of quality, it is not only evolving our part, it is implicit that both parties have quality. You want quality? Let's work for that. Otherwise, I'm not going to be useful for you, right? That's my participation. Thank you very much again. Thank you, Joaquin. Excellent conclusion. Okay, go ahead, Joaquin. We can hear you to you. No, no, I think that Mauricio wanted to speak. Now, I would like to ask Oscar if there is any additional comment. Otherwise, we will continue with the agenda. Just about the comment of Joaquin. When I am negotiating with a client and they ask for a discount, which for us is ridiculous, we send a proposal. And when we sit together, the customer offers $5,000. It is a 50% discount. And I say, I cannot reduce 50% of my work quality. So you want this work 50% less? Well, that's what I used to say. The customer regardless the amount, they expect 100% of the quality. We cannot reduce proportionally the quality of our work. So this is it on my part. Excellent presentation. Many commercial things, especially companies, depend on the service. It is not only the service, but also quality in the service. So we know about companies that have gone to bankruptcy due to service issues. A good recommendation will always bring a good referral. Bad referrals bring 10 bad referrals. So we need to be very careful to this respect. So now I would like to ask if there are no additional comments, then I would like to ask uh, the delivery of participation. Adolfo Ascune, please help me to deliver this acknowledgement. Go ahead. The floor is yours. Good afternoon. That was a very good presentation, Oscar. Very interesting. Therefore, UC&CS America is granting this participation diploma for your valuable participation as a speaker. I would say extraordinary for the technical conference cycle 22 at the 23rd meeting of partners with the topic influence of the code of ethics in the professional activity practical case to discuss in roundtable good opinions that we received about your presentation. Therefore,
the banking compliance practices. And then we will talk about the problems of the supply chain, world inflation, and the possible problems, not a collapse, that with global finances and legal topics. So congratulations, because in this first half of the track, we are doing very well. In average, we have had 80 participants in WebEx, and in the rest of social media, we have 50 between LinkedIn, YouTube, in Spanish and English. And at the end, our events are not massive. They are not meant for 200 people, but they are meant for the ones that would really make the most of it. Well, in no further ado, I was glad to see we had free time and we had a good debate. And on purpose, I wasn't part of it, and I saw a lot of interesting. Not it is not always like to have a topic with a PowerPoint deck. We also have the creativity that we must show and have to see how this is done in Colombia, Ecuador, and how this is done in Argentina and in Dominican Republic and every country. We have Emirates, United Emirates. This is the purpose of the firm. Let's not forget, it's feeding feedback. I know each and every one of the firms, and each one has best practices in a specific area. No firm is perfect, but if we can share the best practices through these meetings and through exercises during the year, we will improve altogether little by little, and the firm will be even better, and the members will be the most benefited, because at the end, this is the objective, that the members will be benefited. So, again, send you a big hug. Please, let's go for our water bottle, because we will have the second part. It is not that this will be better, but it could be like more interesting and on the outside. But the technical part is our foundation. Is on it's over this foundation where we build our building, leadership, roundtables, economy, and it's going to be really interesting. It'll give us a general culture, and at the end, what we want to have is each one of us will be a businessman or businesswoman as a technical professional, perfectly trained. If we cover these two parts, we can sit down with the owner of a company and be a real advisor. We don't want to be the audit working at the corner of a room. We have to be the advisor. It's a mindset of 27 years and that we need to perfect. We haven't achieved the goal, but we need to keep on with the good work. We are and finishing on time, and then tomorrow again we will meet at, it's important to say, the first hour of tomorrow, and I hope that many hours in several meetings will be completely in English and the translation will be into Spanish. The first hour from 10 to 11 in the panel of Francisco Betancourt, how to do business in three continents, in three regions. So tomorrow is going to be the opposite, in your where you were shown how to move the world, the button to, so to listen to the translators in Spanish. The first hour you will be hearing the interpreters in Spanish. And in Carlos Castro presentation, we will unplug and we will have a 5-10 minute break. So our technical team that is impressive how they work. And you will be able to reconnect and to relog all the equipment. The sound will be provided through another channel. So see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, the annual meeting of the firm will formally start. I send you a big hug. Thank you. Good evening. See you tomorrow. A fraternal hug. Greetings. Bye bye.